Hi and welcome to BCS Careers Inspiration. This series is designed to introduce you to a range of different people who have chosen a career in technology, and it's just a chance to hear from them about their background and their experience and find out a bit about what their job's like. So today I'm joined by Ben Warwick, who works in cybersecurity. Welcome, Ben, and thanks very much for joining us.
Hi Olivia, thank you.
So first of all, can you just tell us a little bit about what you do in your job, what kind of things it involves?
Okay, so I'm a cybersecurity officer at BCHC, which is Birmingham Community Healthcare NHS Trust, and my role basically involves well, it covers all different aspects of cybersecurity. So one of the things which I might have to do is respond to incidents and alerts. So that might be, oh, okay, we get a phishing email, someone's clicked on a link, so I'll then have to go to the users, establish what has happened, look through logs, etc., and understand what has actually happened, so we can choose the next best ways to go forward and how to mitigate any risk what may have occurred by clicking on that particular link. Another thing is vulnerability and patch management, and this will involve looking at what kind of vulnerabilities have been introduced into the world and has been publicly known. So we will then need to apply the right patches and determine if we apply a patch, is it going to have any effects on clinical systems, and weigh up, again, it's all about balance and risk. So there might be something that comes out which is quite nasty. However, if we was to patch it, it would then take down a critical system, which would then halt operations throughout the whole trust. So it's being able to manage those kind of big responsibilities and pinpoints of what do we not patch and what do we patch. So there's an aspect of that. Another thing which I do is asset management, which basically will collect all the information of the assets which we have, like digital assets. So that's like, yeah, your laptops, your desktops, your servers, and also like your medical devices and IoT stuff, which is connecting to the network. Because all of these things that connect to the network gives a level of increases that risk. All of these devices will have some vulnerabilities in them, which an attacker may eventually leverage or exploit. So knowing what you've got in on your network is one of the most important roles which I have, and making sure that that data is consistent throughout all our different dashboards. Another thing which I do is policy management. So that is writing policies, making sure that they're up to date and they're reviewed constantly. And this kind of feeds into the culture of cybersecurity. So if we can get our policies right and we can get our paperwork right, it will then give everyone guidance to what we should be doing to making sure that we're as cyber safe as we can be. And then finally, it's the responding to the incidents, which I touched on before. And an incident is when something is confirmed to be significant. So that will be when, say, malware gets into the systems. It will be responding to that, coordinating with different people, and determining the next steps of how to prevent anything from spreading or containing that specific piece of malware, depending on what that incident is. So that, yeah, that's like basically it. That's it in a nutshell. It does vary the whole kind of like spectrum, which is exciting for me. It gives me a lot of exposure. So yeah, that's it.
That's great. Thanks, Ben. And you mentioned that your role is within the NHS Trust. Can I ask you, when you were looking for roles, is the NHS something that you were specifically drawn to? And what made you decide to choose the NHS? Because obviously lots of organisations have cyber roles, but is it something you specifically wanted to go into?
So NHS has always played a massive like part in why I wanted to get into it. just the whole National Health Service has done such wonderful things, and we saw it during the pandemic when we came out and we was clapping on a Thursday, and I got my job during the pandemic, like after the worst of it, thankfully, but I kind of wanted to pay back to the sacrifices and the dedication which, you know, the frontline staff had sacrificed and had put forward for the NHS, and I wanted to repay it, and the only way I could do that was through cybersecurity, because that's what I'm qualified to do.
That's great. Thanks, Ben. And can you tell us about something that you're working on at the moment, or something interesting that you've worked on recently?
Yeah, so something really significant happened on Thursday, where one of our systems went down, and I can talk about this because it made national news. The one advanced cyber attack, you may or may not have saw it. It was on BBC News and News at 10. So it took down quite a large proportion. It's a big supplier for the NHS, and different trusts have different systems and different products that they use from One Advanced. And we was one of the trusts that have been affected. So again, it was that response element to right, this has happened, what do we do now? So it's what's the word? It's trying to enact that business continuity. So we initiated our business continuity plans so services could keep on going. But it's also making those key decisions in front of the directors and the executives, and it's coming from you, and you do get this imposter syndrome. And working in cybersecurity, you'll hear that quite a lot, especially from the top guys. They're just like, I don't really know what I'm doing, but they do, because they're, you know, they know the industry inside out. But there's always, right, we're making this call on behalf of the whole trust and trying to protect the trust as much as we can. So I've been working on that, trying to get make the right calls to reduce the risk and hopefully protect the trust in the NHS.
Yeah. Okay, thank you. And I guess in that situation, you've got to be quite sort of like quick thinking on your feet as well, because it's something that's happening right there and then. So it needs to be addressed like quite immediately as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And we've been having like quite limited information from Advanced, and it's been quite well documented about the lack of communication which we've been getting. So you're kind of like living off scraps of like what is the best thing to do. So it does really go, right, got to go off your instinct here. What is the best thing for us going forward for this? And if that might sacrifice another department at the end of the day, cybersecurity is probably one of the most important things to be able to allow that business continuity.
Yeah, absolutely. And now, with regards to cybersecurity, how did you get into it? Is it something that you'd always been kind of interested? How did you find out about this type of work that you're doing now?
Yeah, so I actually started off doing a maths degree. So I completed the degree, absolutely loved it. But one of the areas of mathematics which I really enjoyed was a thing called cryptography, which is the encoding and decoding of data. And when I finished my degree, I didn't really know what I wanted to do in mathematics. A lot of people go into finance or some kind of auditing or something like that, which didn't sound very appealing or fun to me. So I asked my tutor to say, oh, okay, what can I do with cryptography? And he was just like, oh, well, we do a cybersecurity course at the university. So I did a master's in cybersecurity. And at first I was Googling, like there's so many abbreviations which I'd never heard of before. I was Googling them. I was writing down, right, what does this mean? What does this mean? And eventually it kind of just stuck, and I was just like, okay, this is actually quite logical, which is how my brain works. So managed to pick the pace up quite quickly and got into cybersecurity. I then finished my degree, my master's degree, applied for the NHS in a role, and it was quite a new role, so they'd never had a cybersecurity expert in there before. So once I got in, it was about adapting. Right, what do they need from me? What can I bring to the table? And eventually, we've established this role, which kind of just which fills the whole spectrum of cybersecurity, as I mentioned earlier. And it was really good. And then since working for the NHS, I've kind of you get speaking to your colleagues and people in and around the NHS, and quite a lot of them join for different reasons, whether it will be they've got daughters who have been sick, or their mom needed some care. So they're trying to again repay back to the NHS, to the public, that of what the NHS gave to those family members. Now, luckily, I hadn't had any of those kind of experiences, but since working for the NHS, I've gained this loyalty to them. I appreciate what they do more than I did beforehand, and being able to give back. And even though, I'm not taking any credit away from the doctors and nurses, because they do an amazing job, but to be able to allow them to do that job by keeping those systems up and running and preventing them from going down does my little bit to help them do the amazing work which they do.
Yeah, absolutely. And what would you say is like either the most enjoyable or most exciting part of your job?
For me, it's just the ever-changing landscape of it. So every day is different. Like, I'll come in to the office or start work, and something might happen, and it'll diverge your attention to that specific thing. And when it does really go, all hands on deck kind of thing, you drop everything and you just, right, this is what we need to do. And it's a proper kind of like adrenaline when that kind of things happen. So we don't want incidences to occur, because obviously then something bad has happened. But look, like when it does happen, there is kind of this buzz, and right, what's the next steps, and we've got to be able to feed off that, because at the end of the day, we need to be doing our jobs to the best as we can. So it's my mentor actually told me yesterday, who said, with the whole one advance thing, is that you need to make the most of a worse disaster, which basically is, right, this awful thing has happened with one advance, where their company had been attacked and it took down these systems. But what are we doing which we can optimize our knowledge and our response in the future to be able to cope with these things better?
Yeah, absolutely. I guess every incident is a learning experience, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. And can you tell us a little bit about and you said every day is different, so it might be a bit tricky to answer, but like your typical kind of working pattern, and also any interests outside of work that you have as well?
Yeah, of course. So it's basically Monday to Friday, 9 to 5. And it's, at the NHS, it's relatively flexible hours. So if I wanted to start at 8 and finish at 4, they'd allow me to do so. Likewise, if I wanted to start a little bit later and finish later, then I could do that also. However, because the nature of our industry of cybersecurity, if something did happen out of hours, you are expected to, jump on your laptop and respond to it. So you feel like you're constantly on call, but it doesn't stop you from socializing and doing the things that you want to do. If you're not available for whatever reason, then you're not expected to pack up what you're doing and go home. So it is that flexibility, and it doesn't put your life on hold, but you're also could end up working at 2 o'clock in the morning, having to sort something out if required.
Yeah. Cool. And outside of work, do you have any particular hobbies or interests or anything you really enjoy doing?
Yeah, so massively into sports, specifically cricket. So I love trying to intertwine traveling and cricket. So I've been away with the Barmy Army to Australia, South Africa, Barbados, and currently planning to go to New Zealand as well.
Wow.
So love all that, love hiking, just anything outdoors really.
Yeah, sounds good. And then finally, for anyone who's interested, who's either been inspired by hearing about your work in cyber, maybe interested in getting into cyber, or maybe if you think back 5 years and think, oh, I wish I'd have known this piece of information now, looking back, is there anything that you like, any tips or anything you would recommend?
So I think first and foremost, I would suggest getting a qualification in cybersecurity, just because it seems to be quite a buzzword at the minute. So quite a lot of interest. So having some kind of qualification allows you to have that broad understanding. As I said, it covers quite a broad spectrum. So just having that base understanding will get you quite far if you go to interviews and all that kind of stuff. And then the biggest kind of tip that I have is to just keep up to date with cyber news, and that's just reading articles, see what's happening out there, who's getting attacked, how they're getting attacked, and all of that will kind of just give you that little bit of more understanding of like the attacker's mindset as well, of how they're trying to penetrate these organizations. And also, if you are in an interview and you mention one of these quite recent incidents, they're going to be quite impressed with the fact that it shows that you're really into cybersecurity, which is what you need to be. You kind of need to live and breathe it. So yeah, that would be my 2 tips.
That's brilliant. Thanks so much, Ben. Thanks very much for sharing your experience and your knowledge today. We really appreciate it.
Thank you.